Hello, everyone, and welcome. Good afternoon. My name is Janine Peroy-Gamblin, and I'm Programs and Marketing Coordinator for Inlandia Institute, a literary and cultural nonprofit located in inland Southern California. Today, we are proud to celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday with the poets and storytellers of These Black Bodies Are, a Blacklandia anthology imagined, compiled, nurtured, and edited by Romaine Washington and published by Inlandia Books. Romaine, we just edited never seemed to be enough to describe your role in this. Before we begin, a few housekeeping notes. This event is being recorded and live streamed. We ask the audience to stay muted with videos off. This will make it easier for us to spotlight the writers who are sharing their work. Writers, please stay muted until it's your turn to read, but keep your videos on or we won't be able to see you when it's your turn. Also, don't forget to turn your sound back on before you begin reading. I want to let you know that the chat feature will be available for everyone during the program, and we invite you to share your thoughts on chat. Closed captioning is also available by clicking down below at the bottom of your screen. Click that More button and then hit Captions and then choose the Show Captions option if you would like to do that. And so with that, let's get started. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce the incomparable Romaine Washington, who will be taking the wheel from here on out. Romaine is the author of Purgatory Has an Address and Sirens in Her Belly, and has been published in various anthologies and periodicals. She is a member of Inlandia's Black Voices Steering Committee, a graduate fellow of the Watering Hole, South Carolina, and the Inland Area Writing Project at the University of California, Riverside. She was a public school educator for over 20 years and has developed a social justice curriculum available for free on her website, which we should post in the chat so you all have it. Okay. The proud mother of two sons, Romaine is a native Californian from San Bernardino who resides in the Inland Empire. Welcome, Romaine.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Happy Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. This is the best celebration of his birthday that I could ask for. Before I begin, I would like to do a land acknowledgement. And as I do a land acknowledgement, if you know the indigenous people whose land you are on, you can feel free to put it in the chat. So let us begin by acknowledging the traditional stewards of the lands we are all collectively standing on. We show gratitude to the Tongva people, past and present, for caring for this place that was stolen from them and that we now call Los Angeles, but was first, oh my goodness, this is not the right one. I'll just continue reading it, but was first Yangna. Let us remember the violence created by the mission system in California that continues, and that the Tongva and other Californian tribes seek federal recognition and autonomy today. I invite you to acknowledge the ancestral people of the land you are currently on by sharing their names in the chat, and to consider what actions you can take to help Indigenous people gain autonomy today. As for myself, I read literature by Indigenous authors, and I also donate periodically to an organization whose function is to educate and promote programs for Indigenous peoples. And later on, I can put that information in the chat for you as well. Having said that, let's get to what we're here for, and that is our readers. I just can't wait. So we will start with Angela Franklin, and Angela Franklin is, I hope she's on here. Do you see her?
I'm here.
Okay, beautiful. Angela Franklin is an essayist, poet, visual artist, and documentarian. She holds an MFA from Antioch University, Los Angeles. She writes across genres and enjoys crafting prose poetry and writing memoirs that capture and reflect the Black experience. And Angela says that her Black body is resolute. Angela, I'm going to ask you to let everybody know what page your work is on.
Oh my gosh. No, I don't have the book in front of me. I'm not reading from it. I have it, on my computer where I can see it. So I think
okay.
26?
Let's see, 26, you think?
Oh, 150 something.
Oh, okay. Let me just look it up. And so before you begin reading, I'm going to ask everybody to let the audience know what page you're reading from, just in case they want to go to the work. Oh, I know, you're in Beautiful. I remember.
Page 157.
It is 157. Yes, The Wrath of Conk.
This is
page 157. Okay, we are ready for you, Angela.
Well, all righty then. Hello, friends. Hello, family. The Wrath of Conk. Black hair has survived 405 years of assault ever since Plymouth Rock landed on our heads, disturbing our afros. You'll hear from this reading how the personal is indeed political. You'll learn Black hair care is controversial and sometimes painful. My essay, The Wrath of Conk, was published last year in the anthology, These Black Bodies. It is an essay about what happened when my father, a dubious but willing volunteer, agreed to my mother's experimentation of a hair straightening product on his hair, which he insisted on before she could apply those caustic chemicals to mine and my sister's hair. I hope you enjoy the piece. In 1967, when a new, supposedly safe, mild, less caustic straightening hair relaxer hit the market, my mother wanted to try it on our hair. At 13 and 12, my sister Adrienne, whom we called Binky, and I were ready for Mama to try it out. Binky and Mama fought regularly when it was time for hair care maintenance. Still, getting the relaxer on our heads was being defeated rapidly, and we were not happy with our father's resistance. He and Mama argued over the do-it-yourself relaxer kit because he said our hair was too fine for the harshness of the lye-based product. I don't want you putting that shit on my girl's hair, Daddy said. Those chemicals are too strong and likely to burn their tender scalps. Look, Murphy, I'm sure there's nothing wrong with this product. It's new on the market, and I'm sure it's been thoroughly tested, or else they wouldn't be selling it in the stores, Mama said, with one hand on the hip confidence and the other thumped the long ash from a lit cigarette. She took a drag from the Salem, exhaled, and continued. Look at all the other products Johnson & Johnson makes, she added, sounding like a spokesperson without pay. Besides, I know what I'm doing. The instructions are on the box. I've been doing Angie and Binky's hair since they were born. It's not like I'll be putting the crap on their heads like you used to use. Putting a relaxer on the girls' hair will save me time. I need a break from pressing and curling their hair every week, and so does their hair. Plus, they'll be able to go swimming without having to worry about pressing and curling, she added. Well, I don't care what you say. Advertisers lie every day just to get folks money with their faulty ass, questionable products. I'm not just going to stand by and let you and allow you to burn my girls' hair and scalps with lye. That's all there is to it. I've used it and I know what it's capable of doing. Remember, I used to conk my hair, so I know what I'm talking about. Huh. How well do I remember that look and the women after you like moths circling porch lights? I never understood why. I guess it was just a phase, Mama said, adding, I'm glad that's over, patting Daddy's hair. See now, Sally, there you go. What I'm trying to say is I feel so strong about you not using that shit, I'm going to allow you to put it on my hair for a test just to prove what the product's potential is. If nothing happens, then you can go right ahead and do theirs with my blessing, Daddy said. All right, then, fine. Fine. You're going to see just what I'm telling you. Little did Daddy know how quickly his prophecy would soon manifest. He brought a chair into the kitchen from the dining room and sat on it. In preparation for her bootleg salon services, Mama draped a towel around Daddy's broad shoulders. He crossed his long khaki-covered legs and lit a cool cigarette. Mama took a jar of Vaseline and smeared globs of it around his hairline and the nape of his neck. Next, she opened the jar of relaxer. At once, a rotten egg stench scorched the kitchen air. The smell alone should have served as an ominous warning that dire consequences were just around the corner. Using a long-handled black brush that came with the box of chemicals, Mama began applying the relaxer on Daddy's hair with nimble gloved fingers. His coiled hair began to straighten and relax to the scalp. Eureka! After about 10 minutes or so into the application, Daddy started complaining of his head burning. He ground out a cigarette in his favorite avocado green ashtray and said, Shit! I think you better rinse this out now. It's burning like hell. Woo-wee, it's burning like hell. According to the instructions, it's not time yet, Mama said. I don't care what the instructions said. I can't take it anymore. All right, Murphy, okay. Hold your head over the sink so I can rinse it out. Daddy quickly obeyed her. We watched as she washed out the perm and saw some of Daddy's hair melting off and flowing into the kitchen drain trap with the white frothy relaxer. The mix of hair and foam-rich chemicals resembled a scoop of vanilla ice cream sporting a hairy topping. After Mama's rinsing and washing, Daddy's head resembled a haircut executed by a blinded 5-year-old unleashed with clippers. There were bald patches and tufts of hair here and there. He took the clippers and shaved off the remaining hair. Before that, the few strands left that managed to remain on his head were indeed straight, but the patchwork quilt look was quite damning. Bald heads at the time weren't too fashionable. I don't know where to lay blame for what happened. One thing for sure, it was either the product, the hairdresser, or both. So, for 6 long weeks, Daddy sported the clean-shaven look under a baseball cap. when he wasn't wearing his construction helmet to work. His valiant sacrifice was a 6-week reminder of what most likely would have happened to our hair. The missing hair made Daddy's high cheekbones more pronounced and facial features larger. I never heard him tell Mama, "I told you so," but his bald head preached a silent 6-week sermon we remembered for a long time. Looking back on that incident and the countless times we had to sit still while Mama's pressing comb started at the nape of our necks and continued above our ears until our head of hair was flattened, we had to sit absolutely still as she applied small fingertips of Dixie Peach or Royal Crown grease on the kinky parts of our hair. We'd hear the grease sizzle and pop and watch it bubble through the pressing comb's teeth. The heat of his spine near your ear convinced you to sit still, and I tended to be fidgety. I can't recall the number of times I had a slug-looking burn on the top of my ear or forehead. Recalling ear and forehead burns reminds me that even the act of pressing hair is a somewhat hazardous and violent practice against our hair. And for what? To make ourselves more acceptable in someone else's eyes? If we don't straighten our hair, we buy it straightened, have it sewn or glued to our scalps. Well, if you can't grow it, glue it or sew it. I don't knock Black women for their straightened hair. That's their choice. The human hair industry is a multi-billion-dollar business, and the Black community contributes heavily to it. Under lock and key and armed guards, human hair is sold in various textures to customers willing to pay thousands for long, silky, straight hair that for some looks unnatural, but to each his own. I love being natural. By the way, I don't think my sister or I ever thanked Daddy for his sacrifice. Sometimes when we recall what he did, we throw back our heads and have a good, hearty laugh, just like he would have done. Thank you.
Beautiful job. Beautiful. Thank you. You have comments in the chat there. Thank you so much, Angela. Everybody give her a good hand clap, hand wave. All right. Our next reader is Stephanie Liggins. And here is Stephanie's bio. Stephanie is an anointed child of God, a wife, mother, and grandmother. After a 30-year career as a teacher, she is presently a seminarian majoring in Christian counseling, although that's been updated because you graduated recently. Her Black body is blessed. So without further ado, let's welcome Stephanie Liggins.
First thing I would like to say is, Angela, that was a perfect segue into my poem. And I remember the days of the Royal Crown grease and that hot comb burning my head and burning my face. And when will we ever be acceptable for who and what we are in our natural state? So my poem is about something similar, but different. But it's about hair. And it's about what's acceptable and not acceptable in our behavior, in our look, in our culture. And who gets to choose what's acceptable and what's unacceptable? And why? The title of my poem is Powerless. A white woman pulled my hair today, and just like that, she fell from grace. She used to have a name, used to be my instructor, used to be someone I thought of as kind, helpful, friendly even, until she pulled my hair. She didn't pull my hair like a yank as a sign of aggression. It was worse. She grabbed it like she was about to put it in a ponytail. She grabbed it like she was my mother, my sister, my cousin, who was about to scratch my dandruff. Uninitiated, uninvited, forced intimacy. If she had groped me, it would have been kinder, because then everyone would understand that I had been violated. No one would question If I was too sensitive, they would know. They would know who was wrong, what was wrong, why it was wrong, and be aghast. This way, I too would be condemned. Too sensitive in the eyes of the citizens of the world around us because they look like her, think like her. They can touch without asking because they are who they are. They don't touch each other's hair. They don't pull each other's hair. Why pull mine? Because it's different. Because they are curious. Once they examine it, they can conquer yet another new frontier. As a Black woman with locked hair, I'm a novelty, an enigma, a rare jewel. They need to subject it somehow. When she pulled my hair, I was no longer a woman among women. I was an object to be examined. I was someone no longer in charge of or in control of my own body. When she pulled my hair, she told me, I am superior to you. I can do to you and you can't stop me. You cannot respond without retribution, and the angry Black woman stigma will be reignited like a flame. If you don't like it, you are powerless to protect yourself now or later or ever. Now we can't be friends. I don't want to be under her instruction. I know her. She does not value my humanity as she does her own. And I'm powerless. I am powerless. Thank you.
Thank you for that insightful reading. Yes, it does go, the natural hair is, well, you said it better than anything I could say. Thank you, Stephanie. And our next reader, and there are comments in the chat for you, Stephanie. Our next reader is Eric Devon, and I'm going to introduce him. Mr. Devon is, I thought I had it all set up here. Here we go. He is a father, an author, educator, and poet. He teaches elementary physical education in San Bernardino, California, where he resides. All his poems are cracked teeth, dusky yellow, and receding gum lines lying limp on waxy, bright white paper speckled red. And his Black body is deafening. And without further ado, do you want me to give the page numbers or do you have them?
I have them.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I am grateful to be here. I'm going to read two poems and be brief with my time. The first is on page 194, corner stores. As I get older, I have to adjust these glasses so that I can see. In 2018, Corner Store Carolyn accuses a 9-year-old boy of sexual assault. And Congress makes lynching a federal crime 65 years after Emmett Till. This according to NBCnews.com. A bold-faced call put her in the world's stare. Assume the Brooklyn boy with snacks is all hands. Assume Chicago boy's voice has its own hands. Somehow, his words would claim the space of her. Some howling words empty the space of us. On the boy's back, a bag full with learning. Catch him in a bag, fill his back with learning. They plucked him from the softness of his sleep. She plucked from him his softness and his sleep. No child deserves to be dragged, a name made mud. No child deserves to be dragged and found in mud. One mother woke to find these roles unchanged. Another spoke, defined the role of change. Her call, open-faced box, put that on World Star. And my second and final poem is on page 274. This is New Blades Cry for Slow Bloodletting. Alternate poem. Second part of that title is Shaving as Therapy and Self-Care, an Act of War. My father is no teaching man, and so I did not learn to shave from him, although he may have shown me once, if quick, before I could grow hair enough to bring the blade. Now, peering back from beyond the grade and spittle-splattered sink, my father's eyes clouded, rosy vein and vacancy, measure me, cheekbone to chin. We smile, and cupped warm water pools in collarbone and cleft. Today, the steam is slow, the rinse is cool, the lather extra thick, and each deliberate and practiced pull demands yet another pour mimic close a battlefield, so careful cleared of carnage and burnt bodies. Once restored, the land declares her victory. And yet, the war is waging on, and still the war it wages on, and yet though war is waged on us, still this war we wage. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. And you have comments in the chat as well. Powerful imagery is one of the comments. And without further ado, we're going to keep on moving. Xavier Margrethe Miles is next up. And oh my gosh, it's so good to see you, girl. I haven't seen you in a minute. Divalicious. You were just, when she emails, it's just poetry. So Xavier, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right because it's been a minute, Xavier Margrethe Miles is a diarist, assemblist, and enchantress. Xavier Margrethe wields humorous sensibilities to cultivate intimacy with change, loss, desire, and divinity. Horror films, toys, and organic matter animate play and her exploration of wildness and interdependence. She is seated in Minnesota's tundra, seasoned by Southern love and Philly fed, and her Black body is wonderful. Without further ado, here's Xavier Margrethe.
Good evening, good afternoon, or good morning, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Inlandia. Thank you, Romaine, for hosting this space and gathering all these brilliant writers and creatives and thinkers together. I'm just so grateful to be holding space with you all. So the first poem I will start with is called Since We Last Spoke, and it's on page 294. I would love to cite this source, but they say a poem is never done, it's abandoned. So even since it's been printed in this book, it's had numerous iterations. So if it sounds a little redacted from my reading, it is. But I want to share that with you all. So grateful to be here. Since we last spoke, disclaimer, the person in front of you is an experienced mischief seeker, attempt at your own risk. And this poem is just dedicated to our softness at this time, really asking, how are you experiencing softness? And how can we continue that in these moments of grief? 1, called my vice by its name, sensation. 2, with 4% phone battery, 3 lefts on unmarked roads, 2 rights where the wind was quiet, left 1 sufficiently lost and wandering creature. 3, made my body an altar. 4, asked children their superpower. 5, made a bed in the wounds of a lover. I overstayed and left a salt bath behind. 6, befriended a tree. 7, ate something that frightened, repulsed, compelled me, like red clay, or anything with raisins. 9, asked birds and strangers to share their beauty secrets. 10, reintroduced myself to home, clicking my combat boots 3 times before paying my Greyhound fare. The smoke meat not mess sign still overlooks the butchers. My mother still watches over the town's soul. 11, embraced a chill for warmth. Sometimes this means home too. 12, climbed up a great grand branch in my 2-inch junk glittered acrylic talons. I'd never danced midair, but I have fallen, and a new word for terror and elation struck before I landed. Whether these be offerings to satiate the lust of a trickster, humor a god, entertain the stars, stories whistled from my porch when I am old, may the places I am porous and wandering be evidence of life. Amen.
I have a request.
Yes.
The poem, oh my goodness, I didn't pull it because I was just hoping you would just read it. That mentions, it's near the end of the book, and it mentions Cicely Tyson.
Yes, I can read that one.
Okay. I don't know if you know what page it's on.
Yes, 307.
Okay, yes.
Thank you, Romaine, for your offering. This poem is called For Those That Remain. Once held by ancestors and gods, bodies folded together like the pages of loved books. Kiss-sealed greetings and lingering departures have not warmed us for at least a gnat's eon, 40 years to the trees. Bread and earth take 30 seconds to bake, and memories disappear in the same. Currency of the realm, shit is gold. Gold is gold. Oil is gold because it is fuel. Water is life, when scarce, gold. But parts of us remain. Cicely Tyson, Twinkies, love, bullets, roaches, and fire. We've always had fire. And then there's a note. Peace, light, and progress to the spirit of our beloved Mama Cicely. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. And I just want to remind everybody that these poems will be on Inlandia's YouTube channel. So if you want to go back and view Stephanie's poem, or Angela's story, or Eric's poetry, or Xavier Marguerite, or all of the poets and writers that are going to be here, that you'll be able to go back there and see them. Our next reader is Katarina Canyon. And Katarina is all the way in New York right now. Katarina, do we have her?
I'm right here. Can you hear me?
I apologize. I thought it was a different reader from the list.
I'm sorry. You know what?
Second here.
I texted Katie, but I forgot to let you know.
I'm running the spotlight. So hello, there you are.
Okay.
Thank you.
Katarina Canyon is a Sunland Tujunga Poet Laureate. She currently lives, writes, and teaches in Seattle, Washington. And her Black body is restless. And you have the page numbers, Katarina, and you're going to go ahead and share your work.
I am. The first poem I'm going to share is One Vote Will Waver. And I should tell you the page number, right? Or can I just go? I'll just go. One vote will waver. I have a ballot where choices are tied to every side but mine. My candidates say captivating, hopeful things, but cannot work their way to redemption. I am withered past caring. And and the next poem is Hell. Justice. The scales are rising. Inequality mars my resilient skin like bruises. 1 million bodies of resistant winter join me in the boiling kettle and drown. Challenge this domination altogether, invigorate my flesh. I am not awake, but restrained. When the closing bell of indifference rings, I shall intend to remain in the smoke. We are created equal, but justice, the scales are rising, and I can barely graze them with my fingertips.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you. I know that you had to accommodate that because I'm on the East Coast and I really appreciate it.
Oh, I'm just grateful that you were able to get on and that your health held up so that you were able to share. Thank you so much. And please be sure to check the chat. You have some comments and you have somebody that went to school the same place that you came from. So you can, it's in the chat. All right, without further ado, we are going to have Ashton Cynthia Clarke share her story. And Ashton Cynthia Clarke is an African-American, Afro-Caribbean, Los Angeles-based writer and storyteller. She has works published in, oh, look at that background. She has works published in Spectrum 33, You and Me, The Storytelling Bistro, Stories, Poems, and Reflections, the Academy of the Heart and Minds, and Only Magazine. Ashton has performed her true personal stories on stages throughout the LA area and New York City, as well as virtually. And her Black body is Legion.
Thank you so much, Romaine. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And my cousins in New York City who are here too. My story is titled The Miseducation of a Negro Girl, and it's found on page 148 of the anthology. The 8-year-old Negro girl at the hallway water fountain holds her braids back to drink more comfortably. Her richly melanated skin contrasts crisply against the stark white blouse of her school attire. It's the early 1960s in a very integrated elementary school in a very integrated New York City neighborhood. Two of her classmates approach and wait their turn. One girl, who is white, points at the girl at the fountain and proclaims, deliberately loud enough to be heard across the hall, "Isn't she so Black?" Not getting an immediate response, she stares at her friend, who is a Negro, but a lighter complexion than the girl at the fountain. After a beat, the Negro friend chimes in, "Yes, she's so Black." And the two friends snicker and sing song, "So Black, so Black, so Black," until the first girl finally looks right at them and, saying nothing, walks away. That evening, the mother of the taunted girl takes things in hand and she makes a telephone call. My mother answers the phone. Mommy shared this event often with close family. And Myra's mother actually called my house. Of course, Cynthia said no such thing. I mean, why would my child call another child Black? Cynthia's Black herself. So, Mommy punctuated her story with a Jamaican slang. But I had lied to Mommy. I did it. I called Myra Black. But why shouldn't I? She was Black after all. So what if her hair hung longer and straighter than mine? I had heard something about a brown paper bag test. And even though my skin wasn't light as a paper bag, I wasn't as dark as Myra. We weren't the same. Besides, I was with my best friend. I had to agree with her, and that made it all right. Now, by the time I entered seventh grade, just 4 years later, I was no longer a Negro. I was capital B Black. We all were, whether dark brown, red bone, or green eyed with one white parent, we were all calling ourselves Black. Then, my first year in college, I visited Myra at her home. I was sporting a blown out, picked out afro, living in the Black house on the college campus, an otherwise predominantly white campus, and protesting a college production of Showboat for its cultural racism. I hadn't seen Myra since grade school. She never brought up the water fountain incident, and neither did I. I figured my education into Blackness made up for my shameful behavior back then. I just prayed that she couldn't make out the guilt lurking behind my aviator glasses. That's an excerpt. Thank you all so much.
No, you didn't. I was waiting for you have to get the book to get the rest of the story, because the rest of the turn is just, so thank you for the teaser, Ashton. The next person that we have on our list is Gloria.
Hello. I am going to be reading A Day with Queen E. It is on page 141.
Gloria,
I apologize.
Hold
again.
On. I have hold on. Yeah, it's under, Michael Hickey had
got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I beg your pardon. Here we are. That's what I had it under. All right. There we go.
And Gloria, before you read, Michael Hickey says Gloria shared two of her personal narratives with her partner, Michael, who wrote them down furiously. Gloria and Michael live in Seattle and have been together since November 11th, 2018, and her Black body is sacred. Okay, now we're ready for you, Gloria.
Okay, this is A Day with Queen E on page 141 of the book. And I would like to share my screen if you can allow me to do that. Okay.
Gloria, can you see the screen share at the bottom?
Hang on, let me go back. Okay, you see it now? Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, in the recent movie, Rustin, I don't know if any of you have seen the movie, there is a mention of Fisk University, and this was likely in reference to my cousin Eddie, which this piece is about. And it's about him and his gay fraternity brothers at Fisk University. So after seeing this movie, I was reflecting on what I said to Michael about this day with my cousin. So if you'll just allow me to just go back into time in my 10-year-old brain and just sort of organically relive this event. So here we go. In the fall of 1967, Nashville, Tennessee, 9-year-old myself was nearly inseparable from my cousin Eddie. But there was this one day in particular that is permanently chiseled in my memory like cut granite. I was a shy little Black girl in the 5th grade who adored my cousin Eddie. My mother was a pianist who traveled all over the country, and my father was an Army medic in Vietnam. So Eddie was my role model. I would have done anything for Eddie. So he was a perfect cocktail of unapologetic, flamboyant, and ostentatious. Eddie was every bit of his true self with an extra dash or two just tossed in for good measure. My sister and I called him Queen E with a capital E, all one word, not Queenie, but Queen E. Eddie was the Freddie Mercury before Freddie Mercury. He danced ballet and had the most perfect male body I had ever seen. He was tall, over 6 feet, and every muscle was braided into every other muscle like steel cables. He also attended Fisk University, which is a historically Black college in Nashville, Tennessee. And he was majoring in apparently pretty much what everyone would call, he was a professional student. And he would come into my room and say, "Hey, skinny girl, y'all up?" As he would say this to my sister and I. "We got a big day ahead." Eddie peeked inside my room, my bedroom, every Saturday morning, just like a million other Saturday mornings. Another opportunity for me to tag along to whatever he was doing. He was fabulous Queen E, or as he preferred to be called, his royal high ass. To me, Eddie was like a queen bee, and the rest of the world was his colony. We all loved Eddie. Eddie was always teasing me about something. He said, but he also had the serious side. Each day in his royal court, in his royal presence, I was instructed to catch a life lesson. One day, Eddie sat me down and he taught in the kitchen at the table, and with a blue pen and yellow pad paper, he taught me how to be a girl. Eddie's top 10 tips on how to be a girl. 1, don't be afraid to cry. 2, never let anyone see you cry. 3, don't kiss a boy unless you really like him. 4, wear as much makeup as you damn well please, but not in church. Don't forget, get involved in politics. Don't let other people make your decisions for you. Always tell the truth, not just when it's convenient. Always do what is right, even if no one else is watching, because God never blinks. Use your greatest asset, your eyes. They are not just windows to your soul, they are a reflection of it. Use your eyes to show your heart, to show you never give in and you never give up. When you see a puppy or a kitten, always, or a baby bird, speak softly so you don't scare it. Number 10, the weaker sex is actually the stronger sex, and don't let anyone tell you differently. A woman gives birth. There's nothing in the universe more powerful than that. Women start lives, men start wars. Because of my young brain struggling to keep up with all the rules of the royal court, I was constantly reminded that the first commandment of Queen E was, "Thou shalt kneel." Even if, he would add, it's just the polite bow with the lowering of the eyes. This is to be observed always. It should be in the presence of the Lord that you bow, an elder, or Queen E, baby girl. Kings come and go, always running off to shoot someone or to beat on some war drum, whereas queens stay next to the nectar, close to the hive. Queen E preferred life on the sweet and sunny side. Excuse me. Why a grandmother called Gloria, I wonder why my grandmother would always call me sweetie or honey. Eddie and grandma was always hugging each other, and sometimes would simultaneously say, "Be kind always." Then after that, they would say, "Those are 2 separate sentences." Then they would laugh and hug even harder. My grandmother had something called Black girl magic, and so did Eddie. She was the only person Eddie would ever back down to. One day, Eddie was explaining his philosophy on how to be happy. The day before, he had dyed his afro platinum blonde. He was wearing a pink short shorts and a sky blue tank top. His muscles rippled all over the map. Most worker bees stay in some sort of brain controlled formation. he would say between sips of chamomile tea. No one out of line. It gets even worse for some worker bees as life keeps moving and moving until one day the worker bees walking behind you start to walk on top of you. They walk all over you to keep you in line. They want your hive brain in proper working condition in order to control you and the other worker bees to trap you into a deep hive for all eternity. I got dressed on this day, this cool day, in my culottes and pigtails. Then Cousin Eddie ushered me out the door. We were off to meet Eddie's friends, his gay friends at Fisk University, and we were all going to a special lunch with a very special guest. For me, Eddie was the queen bee, and the rest of the world was his hive. Snap to it, my royal subjects. Fall in formation, Eddie said to me and all of the frat brothers as we piled into the van for the special lunch. It was a very hard year for me earlier that summer because I had lost a very good friend of mine at the same age as I, 10 years, between 9 and 10. I was playing jump rope with my friend Karen. She lived across the street, and we played all day until the streetlights came on. Then if we didn't come inside, Eddie or my grandma would open the screen door and announce to the entire neighborhood, "Dinner time, girl, get your body in here." One night, Karen asked if I could play out a little longer, but I saw my grandmother just standing, hands on the hip, at the screen door. "Sorry, Karen," I said. "I gotta go." The next day, I found out that a man in a big truck hit my friend Karen as she was walking home. Her 18-inch ponytail got tangled in the rear axle, and the driver dragged her under his truck for several blocks. Witnesses reported that he then got out of the truck in the middle of the road, dumped her dead body on the curb, and drove off. He was never arrested. That's when Eddie really started to come around for me. I didn't talk for many weeks after that. Not a single word, not even in school. I cried every day. I missed her. He knew I was a sensitive girl. Eddie knew all about sensitive girls. I figured that's why he was talking and taking me to this special lunch with him and his friends. They all squeezed out of the van into the Crystal lunch counter on Fifth Avenue, downtown Nashville. There was a sign on the window that read, "Whites only." But Eddie and his friends were not there to eat lunch. They were there to sit in protest. They all went inside and sat some more. No one took their order. Every time someone came into the diner, the bell above the door would ring, as if it were black. Hang on, I'm sorry. Every time someone came into the diner, a bell would ring, and there were waitresses. All of the waitresses ignored them. Then suddenly the bell rang, and everyone immediately stopped talking. Heads swiveled in unison. Chairs scooted back. All of the frat brothers scooted back. You could hear the metal scraping against the floor, all of them simultaneously moving together as if one single motion.
We're going to stop here, and just like with Ashton's story, you have to get the book to find out the rest of the story. So we can unshare right now. There we go. Thank you so much, Gloria. Thank you for sharing it with Michael. And Michael, thank you for trusting us to retell that story and get to meet, oh, I forgot his name already. Queen E. Queen E.
Yes.
Yeah, Eddie, but I love when you call them Queen E. Thank you so much for Eddie, for sharing Eddie.
Thank you.
All right. Our next reader is Denise Irvin. And let me introduce you to Denise. Denise Irvin is a creative writer hewn from the streets, classrooms, and boardrooms of Detroit. She spent 2 decades performing poetry and leading workshops for Midnight and Indigo and Room Project. Her work has been published or is forthcoming in Aduna, Third Wednesday Magazine, and others. And most recently, she was selected as a writing fellow by the Watering Hole and a semifinalist for America's Next Great Author. And her Black body is compromised.
Thank you, Romaine. And I see you tribe, let me just say. As of December, I'm officially a graduate fellow from the Watering Hole. So
hey now.
Good evening, everybody, from where I am. It is officially evening time here. I bring you greetings from Detroit, where we approach every mic, stage, and page with the blessing of what up, though. And I am going to read for you my poem from These Black Bodies Are, which is on page 235. And just before I do that, I would like to dedicate this reading this evening to a pillar of the Detroit poetry community that we lost just this last week. Kelly Native Child Mays, unfortunately, was a victim of domestic violence, and we lost her last week. So in her honor, I share with you this poem. It is entitled A Reflection on Spike Lee's seminal film, Do the Right Thing, or What Are We Really Doing for the Culture? When Mother Sister stood barefoot in the middle of her burning Brooklyn neighborhood and screamed at the top of her lungs, only white folks thought it was about Radio Raheem. The mayor's arms wrapping around her was Spike Lee's way of hugging us all, as though he'd know all these years later that we would still be begging our oppressors to do the right thing, that our collective breath would be stymied by the knee to the neck of George Floyd, that we would add his name to a storied list of lynching victims that stretches as far back as the distance of the Middle Passage, and that every lifeless Black body would make it harder and harder to pretend that our jobs, our degrees, our progress matters in a world where Black lives don't, where we are everything but valued: thugs, criminals, violent, felons, niggas, where we take our own lives into our own hands, walking out of our own houses, even sleeping in our own beds. I tell you, they will indict you for your own murder while still drawing the chalk outline around your body, as if explaining why you deserve to die is part of the death notification process. We are playing catch up in a system that gave our oppressors a 400-year head start and a performance-enhancing drug called white supremacy. No wonder we're tired. No wonder being called strong feels like an insult when you're a Black woman. There is no shame in admitting I have never possessed what it takes to endure all of this. I am exhausted with being strong, with being loyal, with being faithful. I'd much rather be what my children are protesting for: free. Until then, I am Mother Sister, wailing hoarsely at the racism that predated me and enslaved my ancestors, that gentrifies my neighborhood and underemploys my children, even when we give them names that don't offend white sensibilities. I have said goodbye to too many of you, have shed tears over Black bodies, both near and far, both stranger and dear, and Radio Raheem was only one of them, just as there is only one of me. But I pray there's a little of the mayor in each of you, because we may not have started the fire, but that won't stop us from getting burned. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you so much, Denise. That's one of my favorite movies. I was just tickled when I saw it, and then over the hill when I saw how powerful the piece was, giving props to Spike Lee. And please read the chat. You have lots of comments in there. And our next reader is Vicki Lee. And Vicki Lee is a lifelong resident of San Bernardino, California, and an active member of New Hope Missionary Baptist Church. She is a community activist and advocates for those in need. Her ultimate goal is to let her light shine for Christ, and her Black body is grateful. And before Vicki reads, there's two things that I want to say. The first is she won't be shown on camera, but you'll hear her wonderful, exuberant voice. And this is another reason to get the book. There's pictures of the people that she talks about in her story. So without further ado, Miss Vicki Lee.
Thank you. So nice to be with you all this evening. I'll be reading from page 25. My story is Beauty of Community. Some people call Lee's House of Beauty the Transformation Salon. You would walk in torn up from the floor up and leave fried, dyed, and finger waved to the side. My mom, Naomi, was most famous for her finger waves. Mom had a boombox at the front of the salon. As soon as you entered, you would hear gospel, blues, or jazz to welcome you in. She enjoyed cooking, and you could often smell the aroma of fried chicken and sweet potato pie from outside the beauty shop door. My father knew how important it was for my mother to cook and share it with her customers in the community. He would buy extra groceries to make sure that would happen. Sometimes he would even cook collard greens, and boy, could my dad cook collard greens. Between the food, getting shampooed, relaxed, and having good conversations, my mom's salon was a home away from home for her clients. The shop was an extension of home for me, too. It was such a symbol of the love between my mother and father as I was. My mom loved styling hair so much that she would fix strangers' hair for free. When she told Golden, that's really my father's name, which also describes him as a person, that she wanted to be a beautician, he worked to put her through beauty school. And when she said she wanted her own salon, he worked 3 jobs to make it happen. The only requirement my mom had was for the beauty shop to be financially self-sufficient. He loved her so much. He wanted to make sure that she was able to do something fulfilling that brought her joy, and in return, she gave all that she had to share joy and kindness with everyone else. I remember that one of the families in the neighborhood did not have enough food to last through the month. My mom told my father, and he went grocery shopping and purchased food for that family. He told the family that there was a big sale at the store and they wanted to share the food with others. After that, my mom started cooking and taking food to the beauty shop. With many hairstyles, it would take 2 to 3 hours from start to finish. During that time, clients would talk with my mom. People shared their victories and problems with her. She would listen and pray with them in the shampoo room. If my mom was aware of a financial need that one of her clients had, she would either take care of it herself or find someone who could. Her clients became extended family, and I grew up feeling like I was related to everyone in San Bernardino. While it was great to have an ever-expanding family, there was also times of sorrow when a customer would die. It was literally like losing a family member. Mom would insist on doing their hair and makeup at the mortuary because she knew exactly how they wanted it to be done. Although it was sad, I always took her and worked with her until she was finished and satisfied with the final look. My mother was a community mother in so many ways, but she also knew how to have fun. She loved entertaining and telling jokes and was quite the singer, gospel and blues mainly. Occasionally, we would have a little talent show full of hugs, applause, and laughter. Mom knew how to change the mood of the shop according to who was there. At that time, I didn't see it as much as a point of pride, but irritation. I began working as a bookkeeper in the shop, and I saw my mom and dad help out so many people all the time. And teens being teens, one day I told my mom that she would be a millionaire if she didn't give away so much money. Sometimes people would write checks on insufficient funds, which infuriated me because Naomi would give away free services to anyone who ever needed it. I felt like they took her for granted and saw her kindness as a weakness. She was always giving and putting everyone else's needs in front of her. Maybe it's a generational thing, but I told myself I was going to make sure that I would never be like her. I would make sure that my needs were met first, and there would be a balance of how much of myself I would give away. I was going to take care of myself and make sure I rested. I was only going to do or give if I wanted to, and the word no would be my default. I felt that everyone was pulling on my mother's hem to clean, cook, fix hair, mend clothes, pay someone else's bills, and listen and listen and listen to problems around the clock. My mother gave beyond what I thought any reasonable person should. I thought all the sacrifices was not healthy, nor required to be a good person. I vowed that I would never be like her. Now that I'm older and wiser, I understand that when you attempt to make a difference by helping others, you have to do what God has put on your heart. If people are taking advantage of your kindness, that is between them and their God. As Christians, when possible, we are to help those in need. We must let God determine if they are in need or in greed. Wife, mother, sister, friend, beautician, entrepreneur, prayer warrior, entertainer. Naomi owned Lee's House of Beauty and birthed and nurtured a community in which she was the heart. Decades have come and gone. I still feel like I'm related to so many people in the city of San Bernardino. Naomi and Golden are no longer alive, but each morning I wake up, I ask myself, whom can I help today? What can I give? And how can I make a difference? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vicki. You have oodles of comments in the chat. So I hope you take a look at those comments. We're going to mix up the list a little bit. And our next person is, oh, you're still getting comments. Our next person is going to be Nakia Cheney.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I just kind of went into audience member mode. All right, Nakia Cheney is a multi-genre author and artist. She has published 2 poetry books, To Stir and Us Mouth, a memoir, Ladybug, and a short volume of science fiction, Three Walking. She teaches in Santa Cruz, and her Black body is Prism.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to read Beautiful, a prayer. I'm not exactly sure what page it's on. I'm sorry, I don't have the book in front of me. I did a mad dash to try to find it. It is such a beautiful book. Thank you, Romaine, for inviting me to this beautiful event, but also for allowing me to have this image and these words, these images and these words in this book. So I hope you guys can see the screen okay? Yeah, okay. Beautiful, a prayer. Don't rage against the silence, the alien, the whole whiteness of the wall, and its baked brick and stain, as pinched as that constant tease. But instead, cup each palm and sit back cocked, preening, your back like a stick breaking its own badness and its own prologue of pride, growing, groaning, hear me, queen. Wind, sand, mountain, poem, the possible place that carries the magic, says, you are beautiful, Black girl. You are wanted by some other who takes your speech always for song and loves the sound of you. Tune yourself to this, the way the whole fills itself with sugar and the gathering of your telling of it, the world You are how your recognition is all their recognitions, of how your saving is all the world's redemption. Take attention to every piece and balance it confidently on the top of your afro. Pluck it, the soft sheen of skin to the puff out, and seek the fruit juicy and waiting, that crop of flowers that burn, that palate with sweetness, that good dirt, the color of the back of your hand, singing in your teeth, making everything clean, and everything in front of you glows, thick gold plates under and over the skin, around the waist, inside your breast, kernels like little grasping hands. Such good things, this self-love. Such good things. We are so beautiful. We teach, we pray, we speak. We've learned finally, beautiful us Black girls, and we want more. Amen. More, please.
Amen. Thank you, Nakia. Beautiful reading. And you have lots of wonderful comments in the chat as well. Please be sure to visit. Our next reader, you guys are doing so wonderful, is Keisha Gay Anderson. And Keisha Gay Anderson is a Jamaican-born poet, writer, visual artist, and media strategist based in Brooklyn, New York. She is the author of Gathering the Waters, Everything is Necessary, A Spell for Living, which received the Editor's Choice recognition for Agape's Numinous Horizons Luminous Origin Literary Award. Keisha's poetry, fiction, and essays have been widely published in national literary journals, magazines, and anthologies. In 2018, Keisha was selected as a Brooklyn Public Library Artist in Residence. Keisha holds an MFA in creative writing from the City College, CUNY. Learn more about her at her website, keishagay.inc. Thank you, Keisha.
It's so nice to see everyone and hear your beautiful work. It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for this opportunity to read. I am going to read from my very short story in the anthology, which is magical realism, really, and it's called More Time. Okay. They say you should never wake a sleepwalker. The very jolt of becoming conscious that one is actually walking through a dream might frighten the dreamer to death. Some sleepwalkers make it back to their beds only to wake up not knowing they'd ever been sleepwalking. And in other cases, the dreamer might even feel grateful that someone woke them up before they suffered some irrevocable harm, like walking off a cliff. I had to go all the way back to More Time to really understand something I'd always known instinctively, and to remember what my grandmother meant when she said, "Dreams don't walk straight." She knew that her dreams were another way of existing, and I believed in her, even when my mother sucked her teeth at those stories about flying Africans and men and women deflecting British bullets with their mere bodies. "Nanny wasn't the only one, you know," she would say to me, and then with a wink, and end with a wink. We knew that mommy was too invested in the new life in New York to think much about the old life in More Time. Though I was born in Brooklyn, I spent many summers with my grandmother in that little community. It wasn't on any official map of Jamaica, but all the residents agreed it was there and had always been there. It was a handful of colorful wood frame homes and a few small concrete shops just inland from Discovery Bay, where Columbus had first set foot on the island. Maybe it was the echo of that first contact or the memory of the Africans who staged rebellions there, but the place always seemed to hold on to a certain quiet. It was the silence that came after the last bit of blood had been wiped up, or the last too young body buried. It permeated everything stealthily, like a gathering of dust or the imperceptible passage of time in More Time, which is how I suppose it got its name. Mama wasn't there. She just knew that she would never leave, and she told us so. Mama wasn't sure, I'm sorry. What would she do in the cold? in New York City with all those people. No, sir, she would say. We're going to stay right, yes, sir. 500 people seem more like a large clan than a real town anyway, and Mama liked it that way. They fished, farmed, and occasionally worked in the local hotels. The wheels of their machine turned daily in the same direction. If more people came, she said, then the blasted government would find themselves down here before you blink, just to throw poor Mr. Holder and the other squatters off of their land, back there behind God's back, where the rich people had long forgotten about since the end of banana and cane. Mama got the little plot of her land from her mother, who got it when her Scottish grandfather was feeling generous toward his bastards in his final days on earth. I suppose the face of death can turn the tides into seemingly intractable situations and make even the boldest men consider what they will tell their maker when they finally meet him. People rarely left more time, and hardly anyone ever came. So this summer that Zara Dovecott came walking down the road, she looked as if she'd been shaken awake, unsure as to whether that disturbed her or made her grateful. She stepped slowly down the road as if looking for something she'd lost. When Aunt Hyacinth saw the young woman, she almost kicked over the bucket of gungo peas that we were shelling on the veranda. But kiss me neck. She quickly went into the house to call Uncle Georgie. They both stood in the doorway watching the tall, dark woman with the short afro walk slowly down the street, looking at all of her surroundings, from the tall breadfruit tree to the pink and white bougainvillea that spilled over on Hyacinth's fence. The young woman was working something out in her mind, though it didn't even seem like she was sure of what it was. What is it? Who is she? I asked. Oh, never you mind, darling. Don't worry yourself. Auntie's round cheeks plumped up as she offered me a smile of reassurance, which frightened me in its attempt to look convincing. Uncle Georgie grumbled something and then went back into the house. Auntie walked to the front of the gate and began talking to the young woman, who stared at her with a mixture of recognition but aloofness. She pointed down the street and the woman walked off. Auntie returned to the veranda and continued shelling peas as if nothing happened. So? Yes, dear. Who was she? She sucked her teeth like she did when the neighbor's goat would continually come over and feed on the young saplings she'd recently planted in the yard. That is just Zara. Miss Dovecott, great-grand Pickney, was in a foreign for some time, come to think of it. I'm going to stop there. My story's not that long. So I think that's about 2 minutes or 3 minutes. So thank you for the time and the opportunity to share it.
Thank you so much, Keisha Gay. I enjoyed hearing the accents. You know, I imagined it as I was reading it. I would like to call Shonda Buchanan. I'm sorry, I just mixed it just a tad. So I'm sorry for the short notice, Janine. But our next reader will be Shonda Buchanan, and she will be followed by April Gardner. So I don't know if you found Shonda yet. While we wait.
I'm working on it. I need to, if people have their videos off, it's a little tricky.
I'm here.
Okay. I'm almost with you.
So Shonda Buchanan, while you do that, Shonda Buchanan is the author of 5 books, including the award-winning memoir, Black Indian. She is a Pushcart Prize nominee, Oxfam Ambassador, USC Los Angeles Institute for the Humanities Fellow, and City of Los Angeles COLA Department of Cultural Affairs Master Artist Fellow, Senior Lecturer in the Department of African American Studies, and Writing Instructor in First-Year Seminar at Loyola Marymount University. Shonda is also a faculty member in Alma College's MFA program in Creative Writing. And that's the abridged version of the brief bio. And Shonda's Black Body is the Ocean. Shonda.
Thank you so much, Romaine, for this. This is an incredible anthology, and thank you to all the readers. Just really beautiful work. Happy MLK Day. I'm going to read one poem from the anthology. This is a Brooklyn Saturday walk for my daughter and my grandsons. My daughter is perfectly pregnant. We inch our way down Eastern Parkway. Her nearly 3-year-old son runs ahead as fast as his caterpillar legs can go. A bullhorn cracks. 10 brothers, all donned in purple jerseys, shout Black history truths at onlookers. Wake up, it's time. African hawkers sell shirts, shades, shoes, purses, socks, jewelry, shea butter, whatever the people in Crown Heights need. Day writhes with too much cologne against sour smell of fish wafting out of Asian market, under scent of jerk chicken on jerk sauce on charred chicken. Fire sirens harangue the day. We hit the park. Children scream, crisscrossing the playground frantically, remembering how to play. Trying to outrace the last 2 years, my daughter closes her eyes and smiles. We are in walking labor. We are here, life in our teeth, life happening still. I snap our selfie. Don't post that picture, she says with a deadly tourist smile. I won't, but you can't make me not write a poem. About this moment, how passers-by bless her, laugh into our space, covet her buttery globed belly, how my second grandson swims inside her far too comfortable, 5 days late, how my toddler grandson thinks he is flying when he runs. Maybe he is, maybe we are. I have to write a poem, I think. I have to hold this moment of bald gazes atop city grit, laced with spring sun, with hope. We are beautiful in this mother-daughter dance. My child having a baby who will be her child, a second son. My daughter, she is as perfect as the Cairo moon.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And my grandson was actually born the next day.
Oh my goodness.
Really beautiful. I wanted to know if I had time just to read a poem from my Nina Simone collection, just one poem for Martin Luther King.
Oh, look at you sneaking stuff in.
Yes, let me get the spotlight back on. I apologize for that. We don't want to stop you.
Right?
Today is the announcement of my book, my collection of poems for Nina Simone. Yes, it's called The Lost Songs of Nina Simone.
And where is it going to be where can we purchase it?
So it's the announcement is today. It'll be published in the fall, and it's being published by Rise Publications. I made the announcement on my Instagram and all my social media today. So I thought it was appropriate just to read this poem on this day, since we're honoring and commemorating King. Light. My apologies. This is the poem that after Nina Simone found out that he had been assassinated. Light. Is my heart already broken and I don't know it? Is your heart broken and you don't know it? One shot and the shattering, a pool of sunflowers at your Memphis feet. Dark. That night I walked on stage. How could I possibly sing? The dead audience's applause franked the monkey box, pelted me like rockets launched from the moon. How could they not feel meteors raining from the sky, crushing my butterfly throat? A breaking in the earth opened for the blood of our revolution. That night, there was no music in me. 3 between. Where do crushed butterflies go to die? And that's the poem.
Thank you. That
Thank you
last
so
line,
much.
oh my goodness. That's Nina.
That is Nina. Thank you all.
Thank you. Yes. And as I say, please check the chat. Wonderful comments. And if I'm inconsistent with my hand waving and applause, you guys just stop me and say, hey, wait a minute, we want to shake our hands. I'm sitting here as an audience member too, as I'm navigating things, and I just get caught up. I'm swept away. But I'm enjoying hearing the voices with everything that I had the pleasure of choosing. I'm hoping that everybody here has the book. And without further ado, we're going to go to our next reader, who is April Gardner. And April is a Christian daughter, sister, niece, aunt, and educator. A life motto she has witnessed and continues to witness in her family is, do your work as unto the Lord. She strives to continue to perpetuate this motto in all the work that she does. And her Black body is she here?
I'm not getting a response from her, and her video and mic are off. So are you there, April?
Okay, we'll just see. That's what I was trying to avoid reading a whole. Well, anyhow, her Black body is bold, and you'll have to read her short story, which is under magical realism too. I divided the book into different sections, and it's short, but it really is vibrant. And our next reader is S. Pearl Sharp. And I remember seeing S. Pearl Sharp.
She's here.
Okay.
We need her to start a video.
Okay, so while she does that, S. Pearl Sharp.
Okay, sorry about that, Romaine. Here she is.
Spirit in this Black body for 80, played her part as the first Negro, met her diaspora, polished the gift. Word doula, motion storyteller, will sing you a poem. Mandala, I see, spearlsharp.com. And her Black body is precious.
Thank you, Romaine, for you and your team for putting this anthology together. It's such a wonderful collection. And you didn't mention the different sections, the way it's divided, which is quite wonderful. And my piece comes under the section of bearing witness. Jim Crow in Koreatown. Some 40 years ago, I unpacked my stuff in a neighborhood a little south of Los Angeles, a city college, sometimes referred to as East Hollywood. My neighbors then were primarily Cuban, Mexican, a growing population from El Salvador, and a sprinkling of white Europeans. I seemed to be the only identifiable Black resident for several blocks in any direction. Over the ensuing decades, I have lived near Koreatown, next to Koreatown, then in the middle of Koreatown without moving. Now I live in Little Bangladesh in the middle of Koreatown. Walking a few blocks from my home, I have a choice of several Korean barbecue sites, a Bangladesh cafeteria, a Mexican bodega, and sidewalks filled with Salvadorian women in ruffled aprons, cooking pupusas on little temporary kitchens they set up each morning and each evening. By the mid-1990s, Koreatown was in full flush, and many of the shops in my neighborhood began posting their signage only in Korean. Some folks thought that was bad business, even discriminatory. Others considered it an entitlement, as Los Angeles now was home to one of the largest populations of Korean residents in the United States. The argument became public, and some city councils passed ordinances requiring Korean English signage. The same thing had happened to the expanding Chinese communities here in the 1980s, and again in an area around 2013. My take on the situation was that a Korean language only sign meant that the owners didn't want me in their store, which meant I didn't need to give them my money. But I love to explore. And so sometimes I would wander in and out of a line of shops just
Your sound went off. There you go.
From this casual curiosity, I learned for the first time about the Armenian genocide, fell in love with the colors of Guatemalan embroidery, and unintentionally offended a sales clerk at a Korean department store pharmacy when I asked for a standard Chinese remedy. In a small Filipino supermarket, I was stunned to discover a painful connection to my own community, skin bleaching. The social psychological residual of colonialism allows that if your skin looks more white, you might assimilate more easily into white society and reap its privileged benefits. When a new Korean restaurant opened, I thought perhaps I could have lunch here or pick up a dessert. I was still experimenting with Korean food, but when I wander into food sites, I usually try to order something. If nothing on the menu appeals to me, I just ask for a container of rice. You can't go wrong with rice. Standing at the counter, it didn't take long for me to figure out that the menu was entirely in Korean. A woman who appeared to be a waitress or hostess watched me, but said nothing. Across the counter, 3 young women chattered rapidly as they loaded customers' plates. After a few moments, I asked, excuse me, but do you have a menu in English? The woman sauntered away. The girls looked over their shoulders at me and began laughing, more like snickering. They pointed at me like I was a bad TV show they were watching, then went back to their work as if the TV had just been turned off. Suddenly, I was transported to a place I had never actually been, to a segregated lunch counter in North Carolina. In the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, at the height of Jim Crow segregation, restaurants had whites-only signs, and even the outhouses were labeled coloreds. What we were shown on the news in the 60s were the most outrageous, most violent acts against Blacks who were demanding an end to white-only lunch counters. But for each of those intense and sometimes deadly events, there were 1,000 moments like the one I was experiencing. No violence, no hollering, no name calling, just a spritz of humiliation. My mind raced through a list of responses options, but I was frozen in place. Why couldn't I respond? There were no Jim Crow signs in Ohio, where I grew up. But from there to New York to Los Angeles, I have been followed around by security in department stores, encouraged not to try on clothes in dress shops, and told outright by white sales clerks that in upscale stores that I could not afford the item I was looking at. I have sensed places where I was unwelcome, but this was different. They did not ask me to leave. They didn't say in Korean or English, "We don't serve Blacks here." They just decided not to see me. Their actions said, "You do not exist." The thing about humiliation is that you want it to end. I gave the girls a hard, intentional look and I walked out. But as soon as I stepped outside, I felt like I should go back and challenge them, making clear what I knew that they had just done, or say what? Go back, don't go back. Then I recalled meeting a young journalist who worked at the Korean Times newspaper. I had his card. I would call him, tell my story. Many racial confrontations are singular, dealing with one person's prejudice, but this was a group consensus, a blossom fixed from a seed planted before those young 3 girls were even born. I would ask the reporter to put some light on an attitude that needed repair. I never called him. I never called because, like so many other Black souls, I have wearied of teaching those of other races how not to be racist. Now, when passing that restaurant, I still sometimes feel a flush of memory. There are race landmarks spread like measles across America. Some are huge, like the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., where in 1959, esteemed contralto Marian Anderson performed a concert on the steps of the memorial after being denied access to sing in Constitution Hall because of her race. And the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama, now a National Historic Landmark, where In 1965, marchers pushing for voting rights were brutally beaten by state police and local citizens. Some seeds of racism are planted way west of the infamous Mason-Dixon line. Some markers are in shift, like the many statues of Confederate heroes and slave owners that today are being removed, or at least having their validity challenged. But most race-biased landmarks are unchallenged, unmarked moments branded onto someone's memory from acts devised by ordinary people in ordinary spaces, like a barbecue restaurant in Los Angeles, California. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I didn't know I was unmuted. Thank you so much. And please check the chat for comments. There's lots of wonderful comments. We are now going to go to James Coates. All right, let me read James's intro for you. And it's an abbreviation of an abbreviation of an abbreviation. James Coates is an author, poet, and educator born in Los Angeles and raised in the Inland Empire. He believes that poetry has the ability to bring diverse groups together, offering a way to connect through shared challenges, achievements, and experiences. His newest poetry collection, Midnight and Mad Dreams, is published by World Stage Press, and his Black body is fascinating. All right, James.
Thank you, Romaine. Thank you, everyone that is here listening and reading tonight. Incredible book. I'm going to start with my poem in the book titled Stillness on page 297. And this is after a Langston Hughes piece called Drum. Throw away the body, this life absent, frequent, quiet, pauses in service to nothing. Beyond a first dove's flight to question our peace, beyond a first rock's rise to spill precious liquid, when a first whole is not yet whole, but empty, when the ending is not found, and here is also not now, solid and restricted self gives way to forgotten knowing. Something immense is present. Life isn't much quiet, much elusive quiet, silencing death to leave.
Thank you. Are you going to read another one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Read. So the other one is on page 192, and it is a history of survival, a double golden shovel after Patricia Smith. Asleep with eyes open, too afraid to dream. I do be mindful, though, of all the ways to make believe or not. Will my pride and joy last as long as I do? Will he be boy long enough to see his manhood flourish? I'm still frightened. The future can't be paid with my blood. There is no permanence of this moment, no word to contain all the feelings in the... To approach a space, walk backwards through the past, as time is a threshold. Witness that land we were promised appear. Waiting is what we do, willing to give everything a value, and what is returned is not no gift. They give sinister blankets of infection. That's how it be, is what it is. Chop down your tree, poison seeds to see them withered. Jesus was sacrificed for our sins. His Father stood by. Moses, however, was delivered from Pharaoh by the Him that holds all the power. God, in fact, named Yahweh in those scriptures. It's interesting that Mama found hope in the stories. I found pages of suffering in the man's cathedral of bones, in the brutality of beatings offered to blacks. Black people must have been cursed. Couldn't have been this man's the devil. I'm sorry, I can't be what you want me to be, Mama. That quiet little boy grew up with a loudmouth spirit, and I named facts the face of my faith. Chosen to confront serpents, I battle him, the lies, and the God he created. I wandered long enough. Even Moses, by decree, never saw the promised land, and Jesus withered on that stake, like fruit hanging from a tree. How strange is that? Be courageous, I say, for they will take and take till no more is left. No, not even your breath is allowed safety in your chest. Those willing do not forget the history of survival. I have seen it, witnessed threshold between present and future, the veil destroyed to the detriment of those pitiful souls who will never find forgiveness. This, of course, is not the ending they had hoped for. Being one of the frightened is no way to live, and yet we do live. My boy, be the best part of the rising sun, the jewel in midnight skies. He will not be stolen or sacrificed to the unholy hands that have come to be. Do I believe in protection? Yeah, my own, because God has been asleep. Thank you.
Thank you, James. And please check the chat. I want to talk so much about the anthology, but I will be interviewed by Jim, Juanita Mance in February, and I'll have a chance to really talk about how it was put together and all of the wonderful writers then, because we're going to move on to the next reader, who is Andre Wilson. And Andre Lamont Wilson is a Black queer writer who won the 2022 Newfound Prose Prize for his chapbook, Hauntings. His work has appeared in Obsidian, Literature and Arts in the African Diaspora, Umoja, Topojo, I guess, I'm not sure, Excursions, Black Diaspora Edition, and Rattle. He teaches storytelling to adults with disabilities in Oakland, and his Black body is gorgeous.
Thank you, Romaine, for that gracious introduction. And thank you all who contributed to this anthology and everyone who attended this literary event. I'm going to share with you the opening introduction to my essay, A Walk with Mom, on pages 184 to 185. Then I'm going to conclude with the last section of my essay on pages 191. A Walk with Mom. In the summer of 2020, a 4-mile segment of the San Francisco Bay Trail that ran along the San Pablo Bay, a mile from my home in Hercules, California, provided the closest place to walk. It provided enough space for pedestrians to maintain social distancing during the COVID-19 pandemic. It also provided enough witnesses to prevent me from being stopped, chased, or shot while walking while Black in my community. I strolled down Sycamore Avenue toward the waterfront. Protected wetlands bisected the neighborhood of apartments, townhomes, and homes. A dead eucalyptus tree stood on the edge of a pond covered with scum. Its gray trunk twisted skyward like a tree out of a Tim Burton film. Woodpecker and beetle holes dotted the tree that leaned to one side. A broken branch stuck out at a 45-degree angle. That's a lynching tree, I thought. As recounted in her self-published autobiography, Yellow Gal, Memoir of a Sharecropper's Daughter, When my mother, Jessie Lee Dawson Wilson, grew up in Somerville, Texas before World War II, she and her sister sometimes stayed too long when they stopped at Cousin Ruby's to watch her sew or at Mrs. Wade's to play with little David. The sisters should have been bringing the cows home from the pasture. One day, their mama accompanied them. She walked her girls and their cows, Old Black Gal and Rosie, past the separate white and Mexican cemeteries, reaching a bridge over a small creek. Mama stopped and pointed. You girls see that broken branch over the bridge? Yes'm. White folks hanged the colored man there a long time ago. You see the grooves in that branch? Yes'm. Those were made by the man swinging from the rope after he died. After Mama showed them the lynching tree, the girls hurried home with the cows from the pasture every day after school. When I saw that dead eucalyptus in Hercules wetlands, I imagined myself hanging from it. My pace quickened down Sycamore to reach the Bay Trail and return by nightfall. I arrived at a section of the trail that widened to accommodate a viewing bench overlooking the bay. On the asphalt, protesters had drawn a colored chalk, a memorial to George Floyd in bold letters. No justice, no peace. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. Had a piece of chalk been left on the ground, I might have added the names of my known ancestors who died from racial violence. Instead, choosing a medium more permanent than chalk, I wrote and published numerous poems, articles, and essays about my family's history. Standing before the memorial, I thought about all the micro decisions I had made to reach the Bay Trail. Be wary of walking in your neighborhood where whites might believe you are a robber. If a white couple approaches you, pass on the man's side to avoid accidentally touching the woman. Never carry an umbrella because the police might think it's a gun and shoot. Usually, I'm unaware of these micro decisions, but the murders of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and others have ripped the mask off my strategies for survival. I'm aware of them now, and they're toll on me. They're suffocating me. I couldn't breathe, but I kept my mask on and walked. Thank you.
Thank you so much. When I read the short story that he submitted, I actually abridged the short story a bit, but then I went and I bought his book, and I think the link you shared the link there, and it's quite a read as you go on that journey with him. So please check the chats. Oh, okay. Okay, I'm sorry, I got distracted, which I do easily. Our next reader, and if we were in a room together, I probably would have switched it up and went to Pamela because your story made me think of a couple of things, but I'm going to follow the what we have here. And our next story is the wonderful Sheila, it's not a story, it's a poem, poet, is Sheila Marchbanks. So, Sheila Marchbanks is a retired aerospace executive. She is currently a sickle cell disease ambassador, serving in multiple leadership roles at several entities in Southern California. She lives with immense gratefulness, appreciation, and thanksgiving, enjoying her family, most especially her 7 grandchildren. As a lifelong learner, Sheila loves reading, traveling, cooking, and snorkeling, to name a few. And her Black body is inquisitive.
Hello, everybody. It is so good to be here. I've been enriched this MLK Day, and I do want to have a shout out to my daughter, Wesleyan, who is here. I am so blessed that I have the support of my family, and I feel very honored to have this very small poem in this beautiful anthology. And I do need to share with everyone that this poem was written in dedication to a dear sister friend whom was mourning and grieving the loss of a sibling. And she wrote me in the middle of the night, and I just didn't know how to respond. I didn't want to just send condolences. And then I'm praying for you. And so this poem is my prayer words to her, to you. Relationships are everything to me. Romaine is a dear friend. And the title of my poem, which is on page 28, is called Sisterhood Sojourns. Many things that I do, I name after Sojourner Truth. My Bible study was called, as Romaine knows, Sojourners for Truth. And this poem is, again, a nod to sisterhood. Remarkable. Being amongst the fire and brilliance of others can radiate flames to warm and comfort our waning embers. Astounding how the harmony of joyful voices can balm the breaks in our hearts. Miraculous, the gifts that are unknowingly given can be a meeting of our minds, our souls, and our spirits. Triumphant, yet tired, walking hand in hand in love, in hope, in faith, and most importantly, in sync with God, our Creator. Experiencing all that we do, He knew that we needed the ties that help us to hold on and to carry on as we live out this glorious life, this gift of life, overflowing with blessings, yet not devoid of burdens. Thankful and grateful, we stay buoyed by the strong, bountiful, blazingly beautiful bonds of sisterhood.
Thank you, Sheila. And as you were reading that, I was thinking of some of the scenes of our sisterhood flashed through my mind. So thank you for that reading. This is a short change up, Janine. I apologize that I just checked my text, and April Gardner is here. Her microphone wasn't working when we called on her earlier. I think it might be working now. If April, if your microphone is working, could you say something? Okay. Well, I don't know. I guess it must still not be working.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm looking for her, but
yeah, she sent a text to let me know, and then
looks like she might have bounced off the meeting here, which means she may be trying to get back in shortly.
Okay. I'll check the text in a bit. Without further ado, we have Sheila Marchbanks, who we then have the vibrant Deborah Tarver Waters, and I will read her introduction here. There you are. Let's see here. Deborah Tarver Waters is a retired elementary school teacher who now studies and teaches the Word of God and preaches a little something, something too. You do more than a little something, something. She does Bible studies and she's all over the place. Author of the book, Loving God. And her Black body is extraordinary.
Okay, I'm gonna stand up a little bit. Do y'all see my shirt? I got this in Memphis, Tennessee, when I went there and went actually to the motel where Dr. King was assassinated, saw the area, and there was no way that James Earl Ray could have missed that shot. And it was just very touching to see the place where he was assassinated and murdered. My poem is called The Essence of My Blackness, and it's on page 33. And I wrote it about me, but I want this, I want all of you to feel this way about yourselves. The essence of my blackness. The essence of my blackness spreads across the sky, slipping, sliding right in the beauty of his soul. Soaring, rolling, tumbling through the air, spreading my joy, my power, my love in him. The essence of my blackness rejoices in his presence, spreading throughout the world the blessings of my creativity, riding high the knowledge that God loves me more than anything known, being blown through the winds across a desperately seeking unknown knowledge that God favors me, the world watching the dreams of possibility that belongs to me alone. The essence of my blackness escapes any attempt to hold me back from changing the hate of those who jealously guard their assumed biased power of racism, bigotry, prejudice, polluting the world with their limited knowledge of who I am, what I am, the child of the living God. And since he's for me, their attempt of pulling me down, keeping me down, or childish attempts that avail nothing as my blackness, the sweetness of my blackness conquers even them. The essence of my blackness rose like thunder across the skies, electrifying the clouds with tears that wash away any fears of oppression, winds turning in the right direction, my rights that I win, because greater am I when I am in him. The essence of my blackness enables me to conquer the racist rants of a world that would throw me down as they frown when I rise on wings of an angel, powered by a love divine, a sign that since he's for me, I am unconquerable, because the essence of my blackness explodes into greatness as I rise on the wind of his spirit. The essence of my blackness explodes through the universe, empowered by your love, Father. Nothing from above or below can keep me from the flow of the victory of me in him and him in me. The essence of my blackness holds me, folds me, molds me into his image. And I imagine that I really can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, because the essence of my blackness embraces the sweetness of his soul. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You read that with such sass, always do. Love it. So our next reader, and I really thank you for those who are staying because we have some wonderful readers here. And our next reader is Pamela Pate. And Pamela Pate, affectionately called Pamela D., has touched the hearts of many with her poetry. Her poetry has been called narrative medicine and has been included in the anthology Storms of the Inland Sea and published in several magazines and journals. Pamela holds on an MFA in creative writing from UCR and is a USAF veteran. However, being Nana to 21 grand and great-grandchildren is her greatest joy, and her Black body is valuable. Okay, without further ado, we have Pamela.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Romaine. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Happy New Year to everyone. Hello. And thank you to Inlandia and to you, Romaine, for this wonderful anthology and opportunity to be heard There's been some beautiful, wonderful readings, and hoping my phone's not going to die before I finish this. My first poem, I read 2 poems. The first one is for Aswad on page 91. Many of us have family and loved ones that are suffering with drug abuse and mental health issues. And this poem is, I was inspired by my grandson, for Aswad. Loud, sudden, out of nowhere, brows furrows, lips turned down, a comical, if not so tragic, toothy grin gradually separates his face. Bank customers turn concerned. Shh, before they kick us out. His mind racing around, finding no exit. Help me, please, he whispers. Desperation spills from his eyes. Can't get out. Doesn't know how. Do you think I have mental issues? Let the call, I pay. Another courtroom, another case. His lips form a smile that veils his eyes, looking through me, pleading, Nana. Cuffed him back as he's led away. Feels the silence. His keyless, clueless confinement surrenders him to the weighing yet life-saving lockups, lockdowns, propelling his spiral implosion. Help me, help him. And my second poem is on page 301, and it was inspired by an event that I experienced after the Trumpism and all of the racism that has floated to the top. There will always be music. Nigger, jerked my head up. Every bellowed beat before, blurred background noise. His deep blue battered truck, a rumbling bass. Head out window, hollering, hate. Hanging spit on every syllable, singing fist, sparking fire. Punching gas, screeching stop, punching gas. A once low tune, now louder. Needle bumped, scratched, stuck on baritone deep memories. Skip, repeat, skip, until the noise blends, droning, derogatory, distant yet drumming, band-like blending. Yet we all know him, the white foot of his heart. I hum the hymn my forefathers hummed. All of us holding harmony here, this day. In my head, my heartbeat, beating hard, beating fast, a jingling tambourine held tight. I knew the dragged, retaliating rhythm, the song, lyrics of James Byrd Jr., Emmett Red Trails. It's an old song. Its melody overpowering my mind fills with black notes swinging from trees, screeching of a soloist soprano, flashes of Floyd, breathing, Brianna, flashes, and now this. He was leaving his parking spot as I parked my presence, like my red Mercedes, sleek, sober, I exit, bold and brazen, shoulders back, leading with chest. This battle wasn't mine, in my mind. There, on my neck, I could feel him. Ignorant of my fence, I tense, gearing up for a gun. Never make eye contact. Avoid confrontation. Be black, ground, still, ingrained, melody. So I sing.
Thank you so much for that reading. Oh my goodness. Please check the chat. You have lots of comments in there. A lot of people can relate to what you shared and the way you shared it. Somebody said bars. Our next reader is Richard May. And let's see, originally from Chicago, Richard May is a professor of writing at the Art Center College of Design in Pasadena and for the art department at California State University, San Bernardino. He also teaches in the African American Studies department at California State University, Fullerton, where his creative voice developed when he studied drawing and painting there as a student. As a scholar of the Afro-Cobra art movement, May's passion is teaching about African-American art history, and his Black body is sacred.
I want to thank you, Romaine, for that introduction. I also want to thank all the previous readers. I was very moved by your works. I'll be reading 3 poems from the anthology, beginning on page 127 and going to page 129. This first piece is called Statistical Iconoclast. An iconoclast is a symbol destroyer. And the statistical refers to the stats that are pumped by the media about how Black fathers are absent. So this poem attempts to destroy that negative symbol of Black fathers being absent. Room crowded with crusty noses and pink-eyed curiosity welcomed me, today's art teacher, in my son's class. Crayon conversations on paper mimicked Umizoomi sketch smiles, SpongeBob frowns, memory moonwalk. I am a father who is the son of 2 fathers. Biology of one man birthed my voice. Another man's scaffolding watercolored my hands. Legacy of both men mentored reappearance of Ellison's Invisible Man, no longer disappearing, shattering Wright's Bigger Thomas statistics seeping circus mirror reflection. Now, hero to my son, his Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, and Dad, painting elementary memories for a father-famished generation. This next piece is called Acknowledgement. It's taken from a John Coltrane piece. I love jazz. I played the alto saxophone when I was in high school. And so I am merging my love for jazz with being an involved Black father. My giant steps, tenor sax, through classroom maze. Door blows open. Teacher shouts, "Hocus pocus." Tattletellers respond, "Everybody focus." Teacher secretly tells fatherless tales to me of little ones starving for papa affection. says, "You are the only dad who visits." Index, nose, picker fingers point. Father famished eyes gaze wishfully. 21st century man-child remix of My Me whispers to table neighbor with Lion King pride. That's my dad.
Thank you. Oh.
This last piece is about, it's a haiku. It is reflection of what I want to see my son run track. He is truly a fast runner, and I saw him compete at the next level. See Jesse Owens disguised as 9 Remix Me, glide in victory.
Thank you.
Thank you. In the chat, I want to put a link to an art show that I have currently on exhibition at UCR Arts at the California Museum of Photography.
Thank you. And I failed to say, if anybody has any upcoming readings or anything that you want to share to invite people to, please do put it in the chat. I saw some people took the initiative to do that, and I thank you for your initiative. If there are other people here who want to share, please feel free to put it in the chat. And we are going to go to Dion Jamal now. And it's getting good and good, and it's been good and good. Dion Jamal is a poet and author. His poems, sonnets, and Blackus have been published in various anthologies. You're gonna have to tell me what that is, Dion. Including Poetry Soup and Parkland Poets. His unapologetic approach to poetry is the result of over 50 winters spent as a multicultural human in this experiment called America. And his Black body is glorious. What is Blackus?
Let me unmute. Hi, Black Who's.
Oh, Black Who's, okay.
Because I kind of merged haiku with my grandfather's sayings when I was growing up, and I call them Black Who's.
Oh,
Black,
how
yeah.
I have to read some of those. Okay.
Thank you guys so much for your readings. Everybody's been so far amazing. Just really inspirational. And keep the pen flowing, please. My piece is called The Breath of Black Men is Precious. It's inspired by Those Who Need a True Story by Tara Betts. They will attempt to treat him like a boy all his life. That's why I call him man. He calls his son over to him. Young Jamal approaches. He gently places his thick hands on the little man's tiny shoulders. Daddy shapes small clay hands into fists and hold them in front of Jamal's face, puts man-child in proper stance. Left foot slightly in front of right, toe in line with heel, tucked chin. Jamal describes the tete as a breath of fresh air needed to resuscitate a young man, giving him the life needed in the world turned anhedonic. The sweet science echoes in the psyche of this young warrior, his father's voice wrapped in knowledge and tied tight with the twine of agape. Hands up, chin tucked slightly. Protect yourself at all times. His presence is a present, fountain of chocolate insight poured into a young chalice eager to drink. There's empathy in the request of the father. Hands up, chin tucked slightly. Protect yourself at all times. He mimics the footwork and punches thrown from the battered warrior whose crisp punches and slick pivots reflect the footwork needed in the squared circle of Black reality. Jamal wanted to stop punching, but Daddy needed to save his life. Hands up, chin tucked. Protect yourself at all times. After his last punch was thrown, Jamal looked at his father, who was still throwing punches. You see, enough punches for his father's tortured childhood, enough punches for trees bearing bodies on their limbs, enough punches for being told he'd be nothing but a janitor, and it becomes true. You see, the constant fight to live one more day follows melanated flesh like the son of despair. Poison air rots them from the inside out as they scratch for crumbs. Children should live soft lives wrapped in rainbows of redemption and never tell the story of ghetto life until father teaches them how to throw punches. Hands up, chin tucked. Protect yourself at all times. Thank you.
Thank you, Dion. And here we go. Our final reader is Chris the Poetic Genius Green. And Chris, I believe you're here. And let me go. Beautiful. Let me go ahead and introduce you. Where are you?
I messed my video up somehow. I can still see me, but I see other people too.
Okay. Oh, okay. Chris the Poetic Genius Green is a poet from Gloucester, Virginia, writing with the hopes to live up to his moniker, the Poetic Genius. Chris recently won the Poetry Society of Virginia's Honoring Fatherhood Award for his poem, Breaking Myth, a poem about the misconceptions about Black fathers. Chris, the Poetic Genius Green, hopes that his poetry will honor his people and inspire many, including his singer-songwriter, 7-year-old daughter, Layla. And his Black body is valuable. Chris, the Poetic Genius Green.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this. I thank Inlandia and everybody for listening. This means so much to me being in this book, and I'm very honored about it. So my poem is called Reparations, and it's found on page 242. Bound to an enterprise beyond our reach, America the kingdom were blacked out of a peace, kept all the wealth and promised us peace, but put blocks at our feet. This is why they owe us. This cotton got me dressed in the fabric of their lives. Still hear my grandfather's cries. Stories of how they would divide and conquer. Broke my family's backs and wealth, and well, we still feel the hunger. Built this country from the south up and west out. They count their blessings while we're left out. Enslaved us, freed us, enslaved us new. Gave our fathers prison blues. Give us dead sons, give our mothers heartaches to this day. Fear wondering why the system set up this way. Still overworked and underpaid. $120 billion trade. Gave us alcoholism to wash away the pain. Red wine on t-shirts, memories of the stains. Lost ancestors don't know where the remains. Birthplace of the crime scene, I still remain. Kept our promised land and told me this the promised land, still empty hands, but we demand reparations. This is how they pay us. Systematic equality across the board. Our skin the price for racism no more. Protect our women against death giving birth. Find out the loss to each family's worth. They know the percentage. Check our lineage and send out checks for every neck they put in nooses. For every provider they erase from the family base. Look at the wealth made from cotton as the base and pay. Freedom ain't never been free for us, egregious. They act like they don't see us. We were cargo they never paid for. This country we slaved for and they just made more. Give our families cushions to save more. Their generational wealth still in the hands of masters. If they benefited from our lives as stock, tax them and everyone that backs them. Everything silver ain't platinum and our gold gon' glitter. Can't put a price on our soul, but our bodies were sold and they should pay for that. Never should have gotten the treatment sheep get. Never again be seen as 3/5. Government needs to be the accountant and the accountable. A reconciliation is truly insurmountable. Send out stimulus checks for the pandemic. Send out checks for our financial sickness. The once captured live in fractures, given fractions of our worth. 157 years too long to be patient. Support HR 40 and band together our representation. Long live our freedom and give us our reparations. Pay up. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Chris, the poetic genius, your poem was what you submitted about reparations. I don't think anybody else had talked about reparations. I was like, what? And got a little hip hop flow there too. So thank you for sharing. And please check the chat because you have people responding to what you just shared. And I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank those who stayed, but there were some that could only stay for a little bit of time. Everyone was wonderful. These readings have really blessed me. This whole experience has been wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I do have, somebody asked about a writing workshop, and through Inlandia, I do offer, well, I'm one of the poets that Inlandia has doing writing workshops, and Tuesday, tomorrow evening, I will be facilitating a writing workshop via Zoom. It is $50. You can go to Inlandia's site and sign on, and or you can just email me and I'll guide you through. And with that, we are, wow, almost an hour over. Thank you so much, everybody. Yes, let's give ourselves a big round of applause. Let's unmute. Everybody unmute.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, audience.
Hey, Laura.
Beautiful reading.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Great job.
Amazing.
Romaine,
Lovely.
could you leave the site up so I can copy the links for a moment?
Oh, sure.
Or do you have to close off? I didn't get a chance to copy all the links because I was listening.
Oh my goodness. I'm trying to figure out how to copy the chat. I think
I